Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into a modal verb that confuses a lot of English learners, shall. It's a small word, but it carries a lot of history, formality, and special uses. By the end of this video, you'll understand shall completely, from the basics all the way to advanced legal, literary, and cultural usage. Let's get started.
Beginner level.
Let's start simple. Shall is a modal verb, just like can and could. This means it never changes form, no matter who the subject is. We don't say he shalls or she shalls. We always say shall. I shall, you shall, he shall, she shall, it shall, we shall, they shall. One fixed form for everyone. And just like other modal verbs, after shall, we always use the base form of the verb, with no to. For example, we say, I shall go, not I shall to go. We say, we shall see, not we shall to see. Now, here's something very important to understand from the beginning. In modern English, shall is used far less often than will. Many English learners study shall in textbooks, but rarely hear it in everyday conversation, especially in American English. So why are we learning it? Because it still appears in formal writing, legal documents, literature, and certain fixed expressions. And understanding it will make you sound more sophisticated and help you understand formal texts. The most common and useful beginner use of shall today is making offers and suggestions, almost always in questions with I or we. For example, shall I open the window? Shall we go now? Shall I help you with that? Shall we order some food? Shall I turn off the lights? Notice something important here. All of these examples use I or we. We generally don't say, shall he open the window? Or shall you help me? This pattern is very specific to shall. Also notice the tone. These sentences sound polite and considerate. When you say, shall I help you, instead of can I help you, it can sound slightly more formal, gentle, or old-fashioned, but still very natural, especially in British English. Intermediate level. Now let's move a little deeper into how shall works. First, shall for the simple future. Traditionally, in formal grammar, shall was actually the correct way to talk about the future with I and we, while will was used with other subjects. This rule is mostly outdated now, but you'll still see it in formal writing, older textbooks, and literature. For example, I shall call you tomorrow. We shall meet again soon. I shall be there at noon. We shall finish the project by Friday. In everyday modern English, especially American English, people almost always replace this with will. So, I shall call you tomorrow becomes I will call you tomorrow in casual speech. But if you're writing something formal, like a wedding speech, an official letter, or a literary piece, shall can add a more elegant, traditional tone. Next, shall is used for suggestions that invite agreement, especially in a polite or slightly formal group setting. For example, shall we begin the meeting? Shall we discuss this further? Shall we proceed with the plan? Shall we take a short break? These sentences aren't just questions. They're gentle invitations for the group to agree and move forward together. You'll often hear this phrasing from teachers, managers, or hosts leading a group activity. Now, let's talk about the negative form. To make shall negative, we add not, forming shall not, or the short, contracted form, shan't. This contraction shan't is quite old-fashioned today and mostly associated with British English or older literature. For example, I shall not attend the meeting. We shall not tolerate this behavior. We shan't be late. In modern everyday conversation, most people would simply say, I won't attend the meeting instead. For questions, remember, we simply move shall before the subject, the same pattern as other modal verbs. For example, shall I call you later? Shall we start now? Shall they join us? Although, as I mentioned earlier, shall with they, he, or she is quite rare in modern usage. You'll almost always see it with I and we. For example, shall we begin the meeting? Shall we discuss this further? Shall we proceed with the plan? Shall we take a short break? These sentences aren't just questions, they're gentle invitations for the group to agree and move forward together. You'll often hear this phrasing from teachers, managers, or hosts leading a group activity. Now, let's talk about the negative form. To make shall negative, we add not, forming shall not, or the short, contracted form, shan't. This contraction shan't is quite old-fashioned today and mostly associated with British English or older literature. For example, I shall not attend the meeting. We shall not tolerate this behavior. We shan't be late. In modern everyday conversation, most people would simply say, I won't attend the meeting instead. For questions, remember, we simply move shall before the subject, the same pattern as other modal verbs. For example, shall I call you later? Shall we start now? Shall they join us? Although, as I mentioned earlier, shall with they, he, or she is quite rare in modern usage. You'll almost always see it with I and we. Advanced level. Now let's move into the more advanced, powerful uses of shall, the kind you'll find in legal documents, official writing, literature, and formal ceremonies. First, let's talk about shall in legal and official documents. This is actually one of the most common places you'll still encounter shall today. In contracts, laws, regulations, and formal agreements, shall is used to express strong obligation, something that must happen, almost identical in meaning to must or is required to. For example, the tenant shall pay rent by the first of each month. All employees shall complete the training by Friday. The company shall provide written notice within 30 days. The contractor shall complete all work according to the agreed schedule. This use of shall is very different in tone from everyday speech. Here, it's not polite or casual, it's a strong, binding rule. If you ever read a contract, a lease agreement, or a set of terms and conditions, you'll see shall used constantly in exactly this way. Next, let's talk about shall in formal announcements, ceremonies, and powerful declarations. This use gives sentences a strong, almost historic or ceremonial feeling. For example, we shall overcome. Justice shall be served. The ceremony shall begin at 9 a.m. This agreement shall remain in effect until terminated. He shall be remembered forever. This kind of shall often appears in famous speeches, historical documents, wedding ceremonies, and inspirational writing. It adds weight and formality that will simply doesn't carry in the same way. Now, let's carefully compare shall and will for expressing the future, because this is where a lot of learners get confused. In modern everyday English, will is the standard word for the future, used with every subject. I will, you will, he will, we will, they will. Shall is only occasionally used with I and we, mainly in 3 situations: formal writing, polite offers and suggestions, and legal obligation. For example, in casual conversation, we say, I will see you tomorrow. But in a very formal letter or ceremony, someone might write, I shall see you tomorrow. Both are grammatically correct, but shall sounds noticeably more formal, traditional, or even poetic. One more important cultural point to understand: shall is used much more often in British English than in American English, even in everyday, casual conversation. If you watch British movies, TV shows, or listen to British speakers, you'll hear things like, shall I make some tea? Shall we get going? Shall I take your coat? In American English, we would usually say instead, should I make some tea? Should we get going? Want me to take your coat? So while shall isn't common in everyday American speech, it's very useful to recognize it, especially if you watch British content, read British literature, or plan to travel or work internationally. Finally, let's talk about one more advanced, subtle use. shall in formal written questions, especially in academic or professional writing, when proposing an idea for discussion or decision. For example, shall we consider an alternative approach? Shall the committee proceed with the vote? Shall we assume this is the final version? This structure is often used in meetings, reports, and formal discussions when someone wants to propose the next step in a respectful, professional way.
Outro.
Great job! Today, you learned shall in much more depth, from polite everyday offers and suggestions all the way to advanced legal obligation, formal ceremonial language, and the important cultural difference between British and American English. Remember, while shall isn't used as often as will in everyday American speech, understanding it will help you read formal documents with confidence, appreciate literature and speeches, and sound more polished when you choose to use it. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next lesson in our modal verb series. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.